Crimson Desert isn't necessarily what we thought it was going to be, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that the game is any less anticipated. As a matter of fact, it might be even more anticipated now. Man, I have this thing is killing me. I got like the biggest pimp. Stop staring at it, guys, okay? But I feel like I am going through puberty all over again. There have been so many interviews with the developers Pearl Abyss online recently, and with those interviews have come a surplus of information. I want to go over a few of the different topics that I think need discussed that interest me personally as a player and might interest you guys as well. The first of which is the release date. I know a lot of people have been asking, are we still going to be getting Crimson Desert in 2021? And if we are going to be getting the game, when are we going to be getting it? Now, according to various interviews, Pearl Abyss have stated that they have the intention of releasing in 2021 the fourth quarter of this year specifically, which means October, November, December 2021. Now, they did follow this up and state that this is not pertaining only to a South Korean release. This is actually regarding the global version, meaning that it will launch everywhere concurrently around the world. And again, it will be releasing around October through December. I guarantee you guys, it is not going to be October or November though. We're probably looking at a mid to late December launch, especially considering the holidays will be around the end of December, and that would typically be the ideal time to release the game. Now, I know a lot of you guys are also curious as to what kind of game Crimson Desert is going to be. Now, Black Desert, as I'm sure you're all aware, most of you guys have probably played it, is a sandbox MMORPG. Not just that, but it also utilizes Pearl Abyss's very own graphical engine. It is completely action combat. Like, as a game, Black Desert is incredible. It looks great. It plays great. Yes, it does have its issues, but that doesn't make it, at its core, any less of a fun game. Now, Crimson Desert, much like Black Desert Online, is going to be using their very own graphical engine, which they actually admitted was not going to be an upgraded version of Black Desert's engine. The engine that is powering Crimson Desert is supposedly completely built for Crimson Desert only. But I'm going a little bit off topic here. They went and they let everyone know, pretty much through every interview possible, that Crimson Desert is going to be a single player game, but will feature complete multiplayer functionality. Now, how they explained it was that you were going to be able to play the game completely solo if you want to. The game is going to have a solo narrative, meaning that other players are going to have no effect in your story and that you will have no effect in other players' story. This means that you can go through the entire game all by yourself, never partying or grouping with any other players, and you can finish it without issue. But they did go on to verify that if you want to tackle the game in a multiplayer environment, then you can, because the entire game is also simultaneously playable with a group of people. So as an example here, if I start the game and I want to play through the entire story by myself, I can. Alternatively, if MRSSSTIX wants to play with me, she can jump in on my game and we can play through the entire game together. Or we can invite multiple of you guys and we can play through as a group. Now, I don't think they verified exactly what type of multiplayer it's going to be, whether it will be a single shared story or if the story will save progress for each person that joins in. They haven't revealed yet how the gear is going to work, how boss fights are going to work, or dungeons or anything like that. So we don't know how gear is going to be distributed. And if, as an example here, a boss drops a sword and a shield and a piece of armor, if that is going to be exclusive to the instanced owner, the game owner, or if everyone is going to be able to loot that, or if everyone is going to get their own table of loot. Now, Crimson Desert was initially built as an MMORPG. I'm sure all of you guys remember when they announced it as an MMO. People were ecstatic because it was supposedly a sequel to Black Desert, which today is still plagued by so many players. The reasoning they gave for this is somewhere along the way, they realized that the game was much more narrative focused and wasn't really focused on traditional MMO mechanics. And as such, it didn't really feel like an MMO to them. So then continuing to label it and market it as an MMO felt a little bit disingenuous, or at least I feel like it felt a little bit disingenuous. I mean, they continued to market it as an MMO until recently anyway, right? Now, they did go on to verify that there is going to be no single player or no multiplayer exclusive content, meaning that you don't have to be concerned with playing a game mode or a version of the game that you don't want to play. So if you want to play single player, you never have to group with anyone ever to access any and all of the content, and vice versa. Now, they have confirmed that the Crimson Desert game is going to be releasing on the PS4, the Xbox One, the PC. There's no announcement of a mobile spin-off yet or a Switch release, but they did confirm that they are going to also be launching onto the next generation platforms, the PS5 and the Xbox Series X as well. However, they did not confirm whether there will be any cross-play functionality between any of the systems, which means that PlayStation, Xbox, and PC might be able to occupy a single server, but then at the same time, maybe not. They said they're unable to verify it right now. They are working towards hopefully achieving that, but I mean, that is quite the arduous process and task to undertake. As the game is going to be narrative driven, there is going to be a beginning of the game and an end to the game. This is probably the most interesting aspect of anything they've released thus far, because if you think about it, single player games that traditionally have a beginning and an end of a game no longer continue to get developed. They don't get additional content. Once you play it and you finish it, you're done. You pack up, you move on. The fact that this actually has an end means that Crimson Desert is only a temporary stop in an otherwise growing endeavor to reach more players and produce more games. I don't know, therefore, how large Crimson Desert's going to be, because again, a narrative-driven single player or even multiplayer compatible game is what, like these days 20, 30, maybe 40 hours long, and then once you're finished it, you won't really have any incentive to get back into the game and continue playing it. So while Black Desert up until this point has survived for several years now, Crimson Desert might have the longevity of, I don't know, like a fruit. It'll go bad after like a week of sitting there. Now, they did confirm that after completing the story, you can jump back into the game and continue playing if you want to. But since they haven't outlined any intentions of creating additional content for the game in the form of DLC or expansions or any more difficult content to require you to group up with players and continue playing after the fact, it's safe to say that after completing the game, you're pretty much just going to be done with it. So for those of you that were under the impression that Crimson Desert was going to replace Black Desert Online, it is not. This is a great concept for a game. This is probably going to be a very high quality, very fun, very engaging game to play. Again, this is not going to be a game that is going to be played long term though, so I don't really see it taking the place of any of the MMOs we're playing, maybe for a few days, maybe for a week until we get through it. Nevertheless, I am incredibly excited to do so at the end of this year with MMORSSSTIX, because as a fan of Black Desert, this is really appealing to me. But that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about concerning Crimson Desert and the information that has been released up until this point. What do you guys think though? Are you equally as excited to play this, knowing that it's going to be a single player game and not an MMO? Even though you're going to be able to party out with other players and see other players out in the world and cooperatively engage in pretty much any of the activities you want to? Or do you think it's going to be just another crappy cash grab from Pearl Abyss and you're just going to give this a hard pass? Let me know down in the comments below and let's talk about it. Anyway guys, that is it for me. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.